going up there, the school bus would go up there to basketball games and
No, you don't need the car for that.
all that kind of stuff.
Don't listen.
And I knew him. He had a girlfriend named Tommy Spikes, and she'd sit down on the bottom bleacher. I knew who Glenn was. I wasn't paying him. I mean, I wasn't trying to get him as a boyfriend, but every time they had a time out or something, he'd come and sit down there and spread his legs out, and Tommy Spikes be sitting there, and they were in love. But anyway.
When you got started, you gonna finish that, and I'm gonna tell on you now.
He said he went down. He was in the FFA or whatever. He came down there close to our house to vaccinate some hogs with
The agriculture boys went out.
And here I come round with a bicycle and two dogs trying to get a hold of me, and I've got the bicycle
Between her and the dog.
Mm-hmm.
going up along there, and Glenn asked, "Who is that girl?" He said I had on shorts and a halter and long black hair, and he said, "Who is that girl?" And the boy said, "That's John and Martha Buckley's little sister." He said, "I'm gonna marry her one day."
But you had this other girlfriend.
Well, in high school.
Yeah, in high school. During that time, I'm sure.
That's the only.
Whatever happened to her? What was her name?
Tommy Spike. She married while she was in high school. I went to high school with her up at Prentice too. But after we redid this house over there in Oakville, I don't know how many times she came over there. And then her daughter even brought her over there one time. And her husband was in the
He's a military.
he was in the nursing home over in Laurel. And she came over there, I don't know how many times, and I finally thought after she asked me something one day, she had another boyfriend while she was in high school. His name was Lynn Spikes.
And that was her boyfriend later.
And she said, "Ann, you think Lynn would let me in his house? His wife had died." And I said,
And her husband.
"Well,
had
I
died.
don't know." She said, "I really need to apologize to him." And I said, "Well, maybe I need to apologize to him too." But anyway, I don't guess she ever went down there. Lynn got Alzheimer's bad. But I began to think after she came several times and after she told me that, she must have been wanting to tell Glenn something. I don't know.
But she never did.
Because I was always there.
She didn't have nothing to tell me. We were them high schoolers. We'd sit on the same seat when we go to ball games and
On the school bus.
on the school
riding
bus.
The school bus playing basketball.
And then I introduced her first cousin, Peggy, to Johnny Wilson, who was his brother of the superintendent there, the principal at Oakville, the year I graduated.
What year did you graduate?
49. But anyway.
And I didn't graduate to 54.
I know.
Anyway, Peggy and Tommy were first cousins. Their daddies were brothers. And they lived about 100 yards apart up there right at the Hepsiburg Church. And neither one of them could go out unless the other one was along, But Johnny Wilson he was 4 or 5 years older. And he had a car. He had a 49 Ford car, 4-door. So he'd come and get me, and we'd go up there and get Peggy and get Tommy. And we'd go to the shoot 'em up in Prentice and go by and get a malt and a hamburger and go home. And then, I don't know, later on, while I was still in in East Texas. Uncle Gaston and them were building that house, and we were staying up at Mr. Tiller's. And Johnny he had to go in the Air Force for some reason. I don't know where he volunteered, but he had married Peggy in the meantime. But
I think she was a senior in high school when him and her married up there at Prentice.
But he married her, and of course I left, and I
played basketball with him.
I didn't have another girlfriend until I got back home and got a little bit acquainted with this, and I thought, well, she's done forgot me. But one time,
After you got out of the army,
yeah,
you came back and you got reacquainted with Mother.
yeah. Well, I wrote her a few times, but she had other
Oh.
boyfriends. One of them was in the Army, in the Marines. He was in Korea, they said.
Who was that, Mama?
Edwin Myers.
She was.
Yeah, I'll tell you how I met him. I'm up at Prentice in a basketball game. I don't know if I had played basketball that night, but I was way up high in bleachers with Arthurine, my friend. And here comes this boy all the way up there and sat down by me. I didn't know him from beans.
Where was he from?
He lived around Prentice up there.
Hmm.
He'd graduated from Prentice. Anyway, he sat down by me, and I don't know if he took me home that night from the basketball game, but anyway, it was a.
Well, if he did, he took Aubrey.
No, Arthurine was there with Albuquerque. We were there with Albuquerque.
He might have taken you home and they went home, huh?
Anyway, it's a good thing I didn't marry him. He turned out to be an alcoholic and died young.
Who did he marry?
He never did marry.
Hmm.
His whole family, he had some old maid sisters and had an old bachelor brother. I never did meet him, but anyway, he wasn't a good catch.
And then how come you and Mother started writing when you were gone?
Well, he came up to the only basketball game he saw me play. I don't know why he showed up at Prentice.
Before you got drafted?
No.
He was already in the Army, and he was on his way back going to Korea.
Oh.
That's the time that I hitchhiked that old boy.
Oh, okay. You were just there for a few hours.
I was there with.
And you went to a ball game.
He had on his.
She wouldn't even look at me.
He had on his uniform.
You knew that you saw that much?
I did. I was out there. I think we were.
Well, I had.
We were warming up to play, and somebody said, "Who is that?" And I said, "That's Glenn Langston." I said, "Gonna make me nervous." Anyway, I made 15 points the first half. I showed off.
You showed him. And then y'all wrote after
Yeah,
you
he
got
wrote me
left.
all the time.
Well, see, I think a few times in the meantime, when I'd come back from East Texas,
He'd come to see me.
I'd come down there and Calvin Hathorne had a car.
Before you got drafted.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's before I went to Southern, I guess. Well,
Very few people had cars in Oakville.
but we'd go down there and, I don't know, go to the ball, go to this.
And if Dan, of course, he'd come see Arthurine, but if he had one of his friends, a boy, with him, he'd come get me to go with that boy.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
that was a place to go.
Oakville was?
No, just to go get somebody and go somewhere.
Yeah, you didn't have to be boyfriend. You just had to have,
Wheels.
yeah, you had to have wheels, and they wanted you to have a partner. They didn't want
Right.
Go
It
to the
was
movie.
just a friend to go.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I'd been, I guess, and I still had my mind made up on that when I'd butchered them hogs, vaccinating them hogs. I was gonna marry that gal.
He told our best man, so he said, when they were in Korea, he said, when I get home, I'm gonna marry that Ann.
But I was there the night that she made the 15 points. that was the time that I home for just a few days and before, and hitchhiked back.
And he said, "Would you promise that when I get home that I can have a date with you or something like that?"
Anyway, when we got back when I got back, and I think I had 10 days delay en route after I got my orders to go to Korea.
Between boot camp and...
All that was over with. I'd gone through boot camp, and then I went through leadership training school for 8 weeks. So I did real well in the Army. I made private first class, and that if you made the top 3 in your class in that training camp, leadership training, you get a PVC stripe. Well, I was the number 2. And I got a private first class strap. So that gave me about $25 a year, a month raise. Anyway, I think I had on my way home. I made that stripe. I don't know whether I had it on that night or not, but I probably didn't. But I did have my uniform on. And then she had another date on her that night.
I don't remember that.
But who carried you home that night?
Probably Arthurine and Dan. Probably Arthurine.
Arthurine done had that baby, hadn't she?
No, well,
She had.
She played basketball too that night, I think.
Anyway, I couldn't get in touch with her after the game, so I went home. Joe had that old Ford car, I think. And I had it that night. And I went and...
Probably found him another girl.
Well, I wasn't looking. But I had... Now, another thing. I think when I came home and Daddy was sick, I think cause Daddy lived from January to March, and I was home in January and February. And I think I went to see you a time or two, maybe Calvin or somebody.
Calvin or Dan or somebody.
Seemed it was.
But years later, after Dane died, and before Moselle was put in the nursing home, Moselle told me, she said, "Ann, I don't know if you know it, but Lorraine didn't really want Glenn to marry you."
She didn't want me to marry nobody.
Maybe she
Well,
thought.
what business was it of hers? She wasn't even blood related.
I remember, and I know somebody made a big deal out of it because Uncle Enos I remember her coming up there and telling Glenn, "You do what you want to do. You don't listen to anybody else."
That was Willardine.
So I guess there was a lot of people didn't want him to marry me.
But anyway.
And then Aunt Dane got the worst daughter-in-law.
Yeah. That's what she got.
Guess what she got for criticizing me.
I think that when I was home on leave, on my way to, because I had a 10-day delay en route, and I came to Oakville. Then I had to go spend a day or two over there in East Texas on that route. And they carried me from, I don't know how I got from Oakville to Dane and Oaks. But then they carried me to Dallas and put me on an airplane going to Washington to go catch a ship going overseas. But I know somehow or another, I'm pretty sure I had an outing with you while I was home that time. I'm not sure. If it does, I don't know. But when Daddy, I know when Daddy died, that was lived that, and y'all had that shit flowing thing over there.
That what?
Shit throwing.
When it was the end of our basketball season.
And Mary Faye Boyd would live across the road, across the highway. Toward Dan's house on the hill there.
Mm-hmm.
She lived there.
we had
And
been
she
over,
played for Prentice at that year.
we had a basketball game and played Monticello. And Miss Annie Boyd raised chickens. So she had what they call a chicken fry supper for us after we got through playing basketball over at Monticello. So the school bus brought us over there to Miss Annie's, pulled up in a
And
circle.
this was during the time that Daddy was sick and I was at home. Because I was in the house with him.
We all, the boys and girls, used to travel on the same bus going to the basketball games. Anyway, the bus was parked kind of out towards the road. It's a circle drive over there where two compartments house is now. And we all ate chicken out on the front porch and out in the yard and stuff. And how people got in that bus while we were all up there eating, I don't know. Anyway, we got on that bus, and you talking about smelling.
Oh my gosh.
Smelling. Oh. Anyway, somebody turned the light on, and there was mess. Well, first me and Arthur got on there, and we were gagging. And I said, "Did you step in some dog mess?" She said, "No, did you?" And we were scraping our feet, and Billy Don Williamson, the boy, got on the bus, and he had a flashlight, and he shined it, and there was a big pile of human mess.
Somebody got on there and pooped in the bus.
No, they went to outdoor toilet and got it in a bag and brought it, and they even had it on the bar.
Why did they do that?
And Billy Don, when he turned that light on, I never will forget, he said, let out, gee, shit. And I leaned over to Arthur and I said, "Oh!" She said, "Don't you puke on me."
Who cleaned it up?
We had to let the windows down. It was all over the steering wheel of the bus.
Why did they do that? And who did it?
Because they didn't like Monticello. Didn't like Prentice because they went to Monticello and Silver Creek.
Who did it?
Glenn, one of them ones was Joe.
Joe did it?
And Ed Gene Parkman.
But Dan was the leader, I think.
Yeah, Dan, he didn't. He backed up all that.
Arthur Range was on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
They were not married then.
Oh my gosh. That's funny.
That was
And
serious.
another bus had come get